Hello, I'm Washboardjim with a sneaky snake trading strategy where I talk about chart patterns, moving averages, and being in the now. And right now we're going to talk about a trade idea, a beautiful trade idea, one that you'll want to remember for your lifetime. If you're a good scalper, definitely want to pay attention to this video. So we're going to go ahead and go over the SPX and what happened to it Friday and how to find a real solid support if it does kind of come down to that. And let's go ahead and pull that up right now. Can you tell what this is going on here? This is called the sneaky snake trading strategy with an inverse head and shoulders to a double top, triple top up here at the top. And then she went ahead and broke out a little bit more. But I'm going to show you how to catch a knife on a trade like this. Now I did try to take it off the 200 and it bounced up, and then we just had a huge knife on it. I started coming back in the trade, I added on, and then I wasn't even yet, and then by the time it got down to here I doubled up, and then I took it up to the 200 and I got right out of the trade, and I made my money back plus $2,000, $1,940. So let's go ahead and look at the idea. So do you know what kind of pattern this is? Well, right down, we have many patterns on this here stock, and I'm going to point them out as we go on. But we have an inverse head and shoulders after it broke out of the snake with a 1, 2, 3 pullback, and then she went ahead and fell back more. That's what tricked me when I took this trade. I thought it was going to come down here to a triple bottom and bounce on up, but instead it just kept going on down. By the time it got down to here, I was really starting to panic. But we're going to recognize why it stopped right here, and there's one major reason, and I'm going to show you right now. First thing I want to do, I'm going to chart this whole thing all over again, but this is an inverse head and shoulders, and I always talk about that second shoulder to be the sweet spot of an inverse head and shoulders. You have two left shoulders and two right shoulders. So let's go ahead and clean this up. I'm going to put this on the 5-day, 5-minute. Then I'm going to magnet. Well, I'm going to do two things. 5-day, 1 minute. We had another inverse head and shoulders right here. Then we had another one right here. See how she pulls back? We had an inverse head and shoulders right here and a nice little fake out. I mean, this has been a pretty tough week. I got stuck in both of these trades this week, and if I would have held on to this baby here, I would have made a real good penny because I really loaded up on this here pullback. But I'm going to show you why I like to trade at that spot, and we're going to do it right now. So this is a 5-day, 1-minute chart. We have a shoulder line right here of this inverse head and shoulders, and I'm going to go ahead and draw. There's two head and shoulders right here, and then we had a pullback Thursday to right here with a double triple bottom, and then we broke out again, and then we pulled back again. So I figured we were done with the pullbacks and we were just going to come up here to a double top by the end of the day, is why I jumped in this trade right here off the 200 SMA on the 1 minute. But pay attention to this next move right now. So as we started to come down, I told the room, I said, hey, let's see where we can find support on the previous day. So I got a hold of the room and I told him I'm about ready to take this trade off the body of this candle. And she went ahead and pulled back a little bit more. And I said, well, let me look at this again. So I took my trend line, my price line, and I went from the bottom of that wick and just brought it all the way across. And then I knew that we were getting ready to hit this double bottom and we could have one hecklicious of a bounce. And this happened right around before noon, right around, actually Eastern time, it'd be 12:36. And then she went ahead and broke out, pulled back, consolidated with a double bottom. And that proved to us to be the inverse head and shoulders. But the idea was taking it off this here bottom right here. That was definitely that day's low. So if you're in doubt, just go back to where you can find a new support. The last one was right here, and then I went ahead and pulled up the previous day, and then I said, oh, this is going to be nice. So I doubled down on my calls right here, and I ended up having 32 calls. And run up here real fast, and I got out of the trade once it come close to that 200, and then bounced it, and it pulled back, and then went ahead and had a great run the rest of the day after it broke the 200 SMA. That 200 SMA acted like a pivot point all day long, and I should have recognized that as I got into this trade right here and said we could break out. And we did. We broke out on number 4, and boom, if you can count to 4, you can make a lot more. So called the put right out of the gate, and that's another one I should have held on to. I went back and looked at it, and I just wanted to bite my tongue. She went ahead and pulled back to that double bottom. Every time you get a breakout on something like this, and it's been like iffy times right now, and I think until we get into the election and the election's over with, but I think we're in a Trump trade right now because Kamala's not doing very well, in my opinion. But you never know. You never know. So I called this trade out at the double bottom. I said, load the boat. And that's where I did, and I got out of that trade right there. So we had a head and shoulders up here. I'm going to draw this all in for you. We had a single top. So we had a little head and shoulders right here. Then we had a double top. Once we hit that double top, we started to pull back. And that's called a double top. And this is a two-headed snake. And we have another inverse head and shoulders right here. So if you can recognize these patterns, you know that you're getting to a close resistance. And there's another head and shoulders right there. And she started to pull on back, and I started taking the trade off the 200 SMA. And I ended up loading the boat 3 or 4 different times until I got into that final stage. And by this time I had 16 calls. I was doubling down every time I got into a trade. And then she went down, and I was down about almost 1,600 and something. A little bit more than that. And I finally doubled down right here, and I've made $4,000 from that low. I got out of it with about $1,940 right before it hit that 200 because I recognized a double top right here. And we had that little pullback right there, and we had this other resistance. So I knew we were getting close to a resistance level. And I'm going to draw that line right. First I'm going to copy this. Put that on default. And that's another double top right there. So that's when I got out of the trade. Because I said, well, we're up here to this double top. I'm going to go ahead and sell it and get out. And then we pulled back, and then boom, we had that big breakout. So what we got to do is remember to pull up that previous day. If you can't find any support left on that single day, go back to the previous day, or even pull up the 5-day, 1 minute chart. And you could see that we had a head and shoulders right here. So what it did is it pulled back to that shoulder line, and then it pulled back to that shoulder line again. So that 55, 83, 84 was a major support for this entity. Just remember the previous low on the next day, and that's a good way of trying to catch one of these knives. So I drew out this knife. First one I drew out was from right here to right here, and we started breaking out, and we pulled back, and then we hit that resistance, and I kept holding on to the trade because I was still in the hole. And then we had the big knife, and that really hurt me bad. So I was down quite a bit. But then I looked at the previous day. This is called an inverse head and shoulders. Now, when you're trading out of a snake, when you're trading an inverse head and shoulders, you have your left shoulder hit here, your left shoulder hit here. It hits twice. Then it creates the head. It breaks out, goes to a double top. Then you know maybe if you took that trade down here to get out of that trade. She pulled back to the right again, broke out, so you're still on that shoulder line. And I tell everybody that takes this trade not to rush. Don't rush into this trade because you could probably be surprised and you'd get another double bottom down here. But wait for that second shoulder line to hit again. And if you do that, you got your left shoulder, right shoulder, and right shoulder. Now this is called a neckline of that head and shoulders. So you want to extend this out to the right. See how we retested after we broke out of that? So that was a triple top break, and she pulled back and retested that. Now this is pretty close to an ascending triangle or a rising wedge, but that's an ideal place to take a trade at on that second right shoulder as it pulls back. Then once it come up to a triple top and broke out, I knew I was pretty bullish in this trade. And then she went ahead and pulled back to that triple top support level, which was a resistance. And then she went ahead and run on up, pulled back, hit the 63, and just kept going. I mean, this thing went nuts. It ran all the way to $2,200, and I got in here at 60 cents. So just imagine how much money that could have been. I could have had 120 grand in my pocket off this trade alone. But I sold it too soon. I got out of it, and by the time it was up here, it was worth, $3 or $4 a contract. Then she went ahead and just started breaking out. But if I'd have held that initial trade down here and waited till the very end of the day, I would have had 120 grand in my pocket. So that's just a kind of a little lesson to learn. Now let's do a little summary of this. Again, if you lose supports on that day, look at the previous day or even pull up the 5-day, 1-minute chart and see if you don't see any other patterns in your playbook here in which there was an inverse head and shoulders, and then she touched back, and then she touched back again off that shoulder line. So I knew that this previous low was a good entry. I mean, it was almost a no-brainer to me. And then she went ahead and run on up, broke out, hit the double top, and get out of the trade. But you don't know if it's going to go up that high. You want to, I mean, when you're up $1,600 a contract, I got in it again and scalped it to $1,400, and I was going, yeah, this is great. This is great. But it went all the way to 200, so I left quite a bit of money on this table. I'm okay with it though. So this is the sneaky snake trading strategy. I spouted off a few different ideas in here, different chart patterns. It's all about chart patterns, moving averages, and being in the now. And I wish everybody a great trading day come Tuesday. We got Monday off. Please don't, if you're too drunk to drive, don't drive. We'll have a great day, and we'll see you. I don't want to preach to you. We'll see you Tuesday. I'm live on YouTube. Hit the like. If you have any comments down below, please make them. I'd really appreciate it. I want to hear your take on the trade. Tell me if you took it or how you took it or your idea of getting in that trade. Have a great day.